I've known for over 5 years now, and I've always known him to be an upright person who has been in the development of the youth. And without wasting much time, you have the floor, sir, architect Abraham Owoseni.
Okay, good day, everyone. I don't know, can you hear me well? Let me get that feedback.
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm glad to be part of this, and I want to stand on all already established protocol. Thank you, MC. Thank you to all of the Rotarians. I've always been part of the Rotary family. I know I've been to some of the clubs in Lagos, and I'm glad to be here with the Rotary Club of Ota. So I'll just dive in straight to this session we have. I'll make it as brief as possible, and then we could be able to take as much question as we have that come in. So what the title we've been given is a pretty simple one that is one of my topmost passion. After school, what next? After school, what next? Like it has been said in the introduction, it cuts across all of the cadres, and I'm sure this will be a learning point even as we get along and touch on a number of points. So I'll just go ahead and take us along on this journey. So okay, as has been cited, I'm Ibrahim Owoseni, and I'm glad to again for this opportunity. My topmost passion for me is raising young people and molding minds. As a result of this, I'm passionate about youth development, life skills education, and human development. I have an opportunity to do this for a number of schools, young people, young adults, and different organizations that work with them. I'm the author of the book called The Career Leader, one of my notable books that has helped a number of young people in getting clarity about their career and building harmony, right? So I'm just going to dive in. I'll share a bit from my book in this short presentation as well because I'm going to zero into one of the key areas that needs utmost preparation for life after school. I was in a school earlier, a bit 1 or 2 years ago, and I did this session, something around this session, and one of the students said to me that it was a wonderful time. The student was currently in the third year, SS3, and he said, I've learned so much about career, and I will be able to pursue my career with boldness, with my God-given potential, and it's always been impactful every time I do such a session. Even close by to here at Ota, I did this session at Home Science, and this person said, when Ibrahim Oshini talked to me about career leader and path, I really felt inspired. And he said, because nobody had talked to me about it, it was my first time of hearing it, and I've been able to gain one or two things. So I believe that this will help us. I'm just going to dive into this without wasting much ado. If you're making use of a mobile device, I'll suggest you put it in the landscape mode, put on the auto rotate, and let it be in the landscape mode, so that you can be able to see my screen properly. And again, at this point, I like to also advise to get the best value from this session, that any form of distraction is also turned down at this point. Now, so after school, what next? So I remember I've gone through a number of cadres of schooling, from my high school to college, postgraduate, and all. And this is a question that comes to the mind of every person, either at the terminal stage of completion of that cadre of schooling, or even after the school in itself. But it just dawns that, oh, I'm out of school. What do I do next? Now, to put this in context, the school we're referring here to is what we call formal schooling, right? Either in form of a university, a high school, secondary school, and any other form of institutionalized and structured learning environment. So after school, what next? Now, I'm just going to share about four, quick highlights here. Then I'm going to narrow it down to one of them. After school, what next? So whatever level of schooling we have gone to, either we it was now or in this year 2020 or even before now, what next after school? And one of the first things that we need to also note down is this. For me, after school, one of the things I did was that I stopped and I thought about life. So I put it here, number one, stop and think. After school, stop and think. Now, the question would be, think about what? Now, so there is this way the society has always designed, humans and the society expectations. So, for example, a child that is born grows to a point And then, the parents enroll the child in a crèche early years, right? As the child grows, it gets onto pre-primary, nursery. As it gets along, gets into primary, and as it gets along, also it gets into secondary school. Now it goes on and on that way to the university and all cadres of learning. Most times we are not given this opportunity to stop and think. We are moving from one cadre of schooling to another, from primary to secondary, from secondary to the university, and there's usually no time to really think. Now, so again, we live in a society, and even in today's world, with all of the hustle and bustle of town, on the road, traffic, and all that, so there's really not enough time to think. And one of the things to do after school is what I captioned: stop and think. Now, the next question that also comes is, think about what? Right? So when you stop, what am I thinking about, so that it doesn't turn to worrying? Any thought process that does not have a goal is called worry. Right? So you just tap a person, is lost in his mind, and say, what are you thinking about? You just say, this life. So the person had no particular goal of what he was thinking about. So that's what is called worry. Worrying is different from this one. This one is thinking with an aim, with a purpose, and in this context is thinking about life. I remember one of those days. I was not even out of school as at that time, but I just came back from school. I was in high school. I was still on my uniform, and I sat down in my room that day. I spent about an hour to 2 hours. I was just thinking about life. I can't remember everything I did that day, but one of the few things I can remember is that I was just thinking about my life, right? And of course, as I grew on, I became wiser that, what I should have actually done is, I needed to have thought about, okay, where am I going to? Okay, now that I've done this level of cadre of schooling, because education is meant to create value. Education is meant to solve problem. The certification is only, so whether you get the SSC certificate or it's a first degree certificate, whatever cadre of certificate, the certificate is only confirming that you have acquired a certain level of skills, exposure, training. Now, but those skills and the exposure acquired is not meant for oneself. A quick example: someone shared this with me some days ago. If you look at a river does not serve itself, right? The water in the river flows across, serving other people. Again, look at a tree. A tree has lots of branches and fruits coming out from them, but it's not serving itself primarily. I mean, when every area of life, so we have schools, even schools we have gone to. Those schools were built by some persons, right? Now, the point of this is that a time comes at all of our cadres of schooling that we stop to think and we really say, okay, what value do I want to contribute to the world with all that I have learned, with all my exposure, irrespective of the level of schooling? I was driving today, and as 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 irritating as it is every time I see that scene, someone just threw some trash of bean, on the road, and it was not just a nylon; it was combination of about three trashes in one, one corn, one nylon, and then a plastic bottle. And I was just concerned. Now, when if we have an opportunity to investigate that person, and we stop the vehicle and say, oh, the person that threw this trash on the floor, let's get to know you. Most likely, you agree with me that the person most likely has gone to some level of formal schooling. The person has gone to maybe minimum, the person has an SSC. Now, so what the implication of that is that although the person knew about hygiene, the person knew about waste management, but the person has not been able to translate that into action. Another example is talking about health. Now the pandemic has taught us to be very hygienic, but we have always learned about that. We have always been taught about keeping hygiene, but it wasn't really it was really coming out from all of our learnings. So the point is, at whatever point of schooling, every point in time, we get to stop and to think and say, what value can I add with these learnings? What values can I add? So I'm concluding in a doctorate program I'm working on, and I'm beginning to think, what value can I add with this learning? That's the purpose of schooling. So at every point of schooling, at every junction of schooling we get to, we always think of, what value can I add with this knowledge? Knowledge, education is meant to lead to action, not to storage. It's just like the water tank in a building. If a water has been stored, on the tank, and the water, now imagine this, the water The water is kept there for 2 years without anybody using it. What will happen to the water? I want us to get a reaction in the chat box. Just drop the reaction in the chat box. What will happen to the water? 2 years, nothing has happened to the water. They just locked it up, filled the tank up, but they locked it up. What do you think will happen to the tap, to the tank? Please drop your response in the chat box. What do you think will happen to the to the tank and the water inside? What do you think? Let's drop a response in the chat box. What will happen to the water in the tank? What will happen to the water in the tank? Just drop your response in the chat box. Let's see what will happen to the tank. What will happen to it? Anybody? Anybody? Or if you want to say it verbally, okay, great. I'm seeing some responses. Let's keep it coming. What will happen to the water? The water has been locked up. Someone said the water will become stale and unfit for human consumption. Any other response? Any other response? I can see someone's Rotary International said the water will become stale and unfit for human consumption. Any other response? Someone put that in the chat box. What will happen to the water? Let's make this as practical as we can. What will happen to the water in the tank? So I'm sure from everything everyone will say, it will still go round to this same answer that we already have. The water will be still. That's what happens even when we store all of the knowledge and it doesn't lead to action. It doesn't lead to practice. That's when it leads merely to certificate. So this one is one major thing at whatever level of schooling, at whatever level cadre of schooling we are, to really stop and to think. The second thing is this. This one is in a continuum of the first thing. Don't be idle. I remember when I was done from secondary school. We're just done, just like now. The West African examination has been taken. The Nex I exam is on and all that. So I had this opportunity. Thank you. I can see the principal of Adidokun. It will be stinking, undrinkable. Now, before I continue with my own story as I was sharing, let's flip the case in that scenario. So let's imagine that the tank is now switched on, and the water is able to serve the various part of the building, the kitchen, the bathroom, and everywhere. What will happen? Because that knowledge is being used constantly, it will be restored. Constantly, it will be restored. That's so. Even when you use your knowledge, you have fresher insights, you have fresher knowledge when you use your current knowledge. The water is restored, it's pumped again, it's used, it's pumped again, and that's how changes happen in the society. Like what Rotary stands for, right? And so this education and literacy program is an amazing one. This second one is don't be idle. So like I was sharing my story, so I had this pocket of time. I was billed to resume the university some months afterwards, so I had a pocket of time with me. And one of the things I remember I did is that what I did was that I went on. I asked my parents for a close by computer institute. I wanted to get some hands-on skills about the use of the computer, and I found one close by that was not too far from where I was staying then, and I enrolled. Right, I was coming in the morning, closing the afternoon. We get to do the hands-on experiences, the practicals. That period, I chose not to be idle, and it was able to help me to build my foundation in computer literacy, right? And today I'm continually growing in my computer literacy, but I've not been where I used to be. It's an amazing opportunity. Sometimes some people think I'm an IT expert, but I'm not. But it's just because of my continuous growth in knowledge, right? So sometimes we have an opportunity even after school. So most times in school, especially for higher education, there is this track of learning. So there are fields of study commonly called courses of study, right? And because of that, most people always focus on just one course of study, and we call that specific knowledge. As good as that is, there is also what is called generic knowledge. And so the goal of education is such that I have about 70% of my specific knowledge in my field and 30% of generic knowledge in other fields, right? So I get on a conversation, I get on a meeting, I get in an association, anywhere I can contribute actively because I'm not just skilled in my specific knowledge, I'm also skilled in my generic knowledge. And so that's why it's always good to keep an open mind, even after school, even after all of the degrees. Having an open mind. I learn from young people. I learn from people who are younger than I am. I learn from people who are older than I am. So after school, we keep learning, and that will only happen when we choose to invest in this and not be idle. It's always an investment in knowledge pays the most. An investment in knowledge pays the most. I told someone, not too long ago. I said, it's good you can invest in things. You can invest in stock, you can invest in real estate, you can invest in a number of mutual funds. They are all amazing. But the best form of investment is the investment in self. That can never be stolen. That can never dwindle in value. It's the best investment in self. But that's with the mindset that even after school, I continue to invest in myself. Now, this third one is also like a continuum, is a flow, like we shared the first time. It says, be of value. Be of value, right? Be of value. When I was in this, when I was at the verge of getting into the higher institution, I didn't have an opportunity like this. But Rotary Club of Water is adding value through this event, right? And that's the goal of education. So imagine each person now also goes on to do that to 3 other people, 5 other people. It's going to be what we call a chain reaction. And from peer-to-peer mentoring, from all of that, we'll discover that the whole of water is all literate, and the rate of education rises just by having this mindset of constantly being of value. After stopping and thinking of what value to add, what contribution to make, and investing in that, not being idle, really now take the action now and be of value, no matter how small it is. No matter how small it is. Sometimes I have an opportunity to teach some of my students within my care, and I always ask myself, how can I be of the best value to them at this time? One student came to me some time back, some years ago. I was done with a session with them, and he said to me, he said, um, he said something I said during the class struck him the most. And I said, what is it? Tell me about it. And then we just went on a chat. He said, I said something. While I was teaching, I shared with them about, something George Eliot said. George Eliot said, it's never too late to be whom you might have, wanted to be. And I just shared that in passing. And that was what it took out of the entire class. And we just talked about it. This has been a guy who has been having issues, concerns, or actually he was at the verge of getting out of the university, and he was also thinking like this: after school, what next? And I was glad that I was opportune to be of value to him. That's the kind of thinking that everybody, irrespective of the cadre of schooling we are in or coming out from, we need to always carry on. Now I'm going to zero down, on this last part of my presentation, which is after school, map out your career path. Especially, this is, especially for persons who are at the verge of either getting out of the university or getting into the university, mapping out your career path. And this is key because a larger percentage of life will be spent in this area of life. A larger percentage of life will be spent in this area of life. And like I always say, if you, no matter how far you have gone on the wrong path, it remains the wrong path. One day I was driving, I missed my way, and of course I knew I was not on the right path. Sometimes, most people who have gone ahead share with us, oh, I don't like what I'm doing, oh, I'm not satisfied, I don't think this is the best thing. Sometimes that feeling comes, but at some time, if this opportunity came at that point, for example, where you're able to map your career path, you'll be able to overcome some of that. So for young people and those at this cadre, this is an opportunity, and I want you to listen attentively to this part of this session. I'm going to show you quickly, and I'm just going to wrap up with that, how to map your career path. This is one major area to really define as you think of life after school. This is one major area. Now, it's simple. Most times when the word career path is used, they call it career path, and for example, this is a footpath. For most people who have used a footpath is used to connect a point to the other. most times it's always a shorter distance, right? And the beauty about the footpath is after one person passes, the second, third, fourth person passes. Over time, it becomes a defined path, and everybody gets to walk with it. Now, the same way the first person gets to chart the path, the second person, and gradually becomes a footpath. That's the same way it's used in the word in the convention career path. The meaning is that as a person, I'm meant to chart the path of my career. So it may not be a charted path already. I'm meant to be the one to chart the path. The government won't chart the path. Even my parents, when I was about, filling my UTME form, then my dad came to me and, he gave me a sticky note, just a very short note like this, and he wrote inside of it about three, I think two programs, courses of studies, he felt I could, go in for, and the corresponding institutions that, and then I looked at the sticky note he gave to me, and I said to myself, oh, I don't think I'm best suited for this. And we just had a conversation about it. Oh, I think I'm best suited in this and that and that. When I was done with my first degree, my dad attested to it and said, oh, you made the right choice. Oh, you made the right choice. Now, so although I didn't have it all figured out, one of the things I was able to do is that I was able to have a little understanding that I'm meant to chart my career path. So it's most times it's called a career path because there is a destination. So you enter into a footpath because you know that it's going to lead you somewhere, if possible shorter. If it's not leading anywhere, then it's a trap. So some persons say, oh, when we hear cases of kidnap, they enter into the bush and enter into a path that is not leading anywhere. That's a trap. But any path a person enters into, he has an idea of where that path is leading to. That's the same with career. It's not different. And to drive this more home, I used to give this illustration as well. So we have a train moves along a track. Now, one of the most disastrous accidents, apart from many other modes of transportation, is that of a train. Why? Because as simple as veering off the track, that's an accident for a train. And so it's again to paint the picture of the path. Each one has a path. It's a path leading to your own destination. I may not always be the same for everybody, right? So the path leads to a destination. And so most times when people tell me, oh, well, Mr. Abraham, I'm not sure of my career path. I want to map a career path. Or what course of study do I choose and all that. One of the things I take them through my coaching program is that it's not just about the choice of the path. It's about finding the destination. It's the destination that makes it a career. If there's no destination, it's a trap. It's not a career. But now I did some study, many years ago, and I published, one of my books from that, in 2014 called The Career Leader. And for my finding, one of the things I did about career is that the word career comes from this root word. It comes from this root word. I want to show us quickly. Now, it comes from this root word. I'm going to come back to the other part. I just want to skip that part and show us this quickly. Now, this root word is a Latin word, carus. Carus. The English word for carus means a wheeled vehicle. A wheeled vehicle. Please, I want to know if we're finding this valuable. Please let me know in the chat box if someone can hear me when you're finding this valuable. Let me know if you're finding this valuable. Please give me some response in the chat box. Let me know if this is of value so far. Let me know if this is of value so far, so I'm not just speaking to myself. Are we finding this valuable? Just give me some response in the chat box. Give me some response in the chat box, please. Let's get to hear from persons. Are you finding this valuable? Please give me a response. If you can, just type value in the chat box. Value. Okay, thank you. I can see highly valuable. Thank you. Let's keep it coming. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you so much. Oh, great. Very valuable. Even taking note to encourage children. Thank you so much, ma. That's one major one that I'm a big proponent for, and we take many educators and teachers alike on trainings like this, so they can be able to help younger people make informed decisions. Now, thank you for that. Now, so the English word for this Latin word carus is called a wheeled vehicle, and that came from this mode of transportation. If you can flash back to this old means of transportation, how does it work? There's always a horse in front and a cart behind, and so as the horse moves, the cat moves along with it, right? So that was where they got the means of this definition of career from. It's yet it's I know dictionary says an occupation is a job, but all of those ones will not help us to appreciate what it means truly like this. Now, the beautiful thing about that is this: I've defined career in the most simplest form ever, and I say a career is a vehicle. If someone asks you what does a career mean, this is the most simplest one I've always shared with young people and young adults. My career is a vehicle, and if you've been following me, in this session, you'll be able to connect the dots. It's a vehicle because it's leading to a destination. It's a vehicle because it's leading to a destination. In this vehicle, you are the one driving for life. You are driving for life. You are the one. You are the driver on the steering wheel, right? When it's time to make a bend, you make the bend. When it's time to to maintain a straight line motion, you maintain a straight line motion. It's your own career vehicle. And then I also define it as a lifelong, long-term work. It's not just something of 2 months or 3 months or 4 months. It's a lifelong work, right? And so many persons have made some preconceived notions about career. They've got it from peer pressures, parental coercion, societal expectations. People say, "Oh no, is this one that is raining now? Oh no, is this one now?" A career has little or nothing to do about that. That could be for jobs, but not for career. Career covers everything. Career is encompassing. It's like an umbrella. It covers both the projects, the roles, the internships, everything we get to do in the lifespan of our work is captured under our career, right? So a job is just one of them. A job is just a piece of your work, right? And with this understanding, let's look at this analogy. What do vehicles do? What do vehicles do? Number one, vehicles move within lanes. That's a major one. Roads are divided in lanes and paths, so it's different. There's a service lane, there's a fast lane, and all that. They move within lanes. When you see a vehicle moving like this, then something is wrong. Vehicles move within lane. Number two thing is that vehicles move with a destination in mind, and this one is the most important one. So many of us perhaps on the road now, or some persons have gone out in the morning. Now, when you set out on the road in the morning, you before putting on the ignition of the vehicle, you had an idea of a place you're going to. Am I right? Yeah, most times, definitely. Even if it's the closest of place, even if it's just to get something at the at the mall, no matter whether it's a far or a long distance, there's always a destination in view. Exactly. That's the same thing. That's the same thing for career. A career is a vehicle because there's a destination in mind. I'm driving somewhere. We're always driving somewhere. Each person is driving with different levels of urgency, and so choosing career path is not a difficult thing. It's just about it's not something you compare with another person. And that is one thing a number of young persons have told me getting out of high school, getting into the college. Oh, my friend said, oh, he's going to this program. He said he's going to this program. Can I go along with him? No, it's not. It's not that way. And I've always said it's not about what is trending. It's about where it's ending. It is not about what is trending in the now. It's about where it is ending. Right? Again, ending talks about destination. Ending talks about destination. I like what Albert Einstein said. Look at this quickly. If you can't read it where you are, just in your conscience. Everybody is a genius. Everybody. 8 billion people on the earth. Everybody is a genius. But if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, that fish will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. Why? It's simple. That fish is not meant to climb a tree. That fish is not designed to climb a tree. That fish is designed to be in water. But as long as the fish tries to compare with another person, another animal climbing the tree, as long as the fish tries to compare with another insect flying and doing all that, the fish will always think, oh, well, I'm stupid. I'm not good. That's what happens when careers are compared or careers are made with other forms of deformed decisions. A fish is meant to be in water, and that's the habitat for the fish to thrive. And everybody is a genius. Everybody's a genius. And to as I'm beginning to round up, these are key areas, in mapping out your career path, even as you get out to life after school. The first is making a careful exploration. Exploration talks about a search. I'm going to highlight a few of them before we get out. Make a careful exploration. 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 Those in the mining industry, they go on an exploration. It's a serious task. It's a journey to mine resources and do all that. That's the same with career. The next thing is that after you find your exploration, exploration talks about finding your unique abilities, your unique giftings, all encompassing finding where you're going to. So just like the way I say, oh, this morning, oh, I'm driving to this place. That's exploration, knowing where I'm going to. Next thing is that find the work you have been given. Everybody has a work given. And then he ends by saying, don't compare yourself with another person or don't be impressed with another person. Why? Because each one of us is we're actually meant to do our exploration ourselves. Now, so this is a simple way to do it. Everybody has a destiny. And your career path is a vehicle. Remember, I said a career is a vehicle. So our careers are like vehicles that we are meant to take as we drive to our destination. Let me say that again. Our careers are like vehicles we are meant to take on as we drive towards a destination. Because everybody has a destination, right? Now let me just make this practical. So I know there are various kinds of some person begin to say, okay, how do I find my destination? And that's a key one, right? When I was about to get out of the university, I was thinking about this, and I was just thinking, oh well, I'll just get a job and do, and I'll just be good. I finished the first class degree, so I just felt, oh, that'll just be fine with it. But one day, like today, I was just on the 3 days. I was just making some inquiries and search. I just wanted to know, okay, what more? Is there more? Is there more about my life? I was just thinking about that. Remember, we said the first thing is stop and think. There's always every great career story. You'll find a part of their story where they tell you about a discovery they made. I remember the story of Bill Gates as well. He had that about his own his own life as well, where one of those days it was at the basement of the house. It was just thinking about different things perhaps we don't know. And then his mom came looking for him. Bill, where are you? And Bill Gates said, oh, mom, I'm thinking. I mean, I could imagine. I'm thinking. How many persons engage in thinking today? Most times it's about worrying. Remember, I said the difference between thinking and worrying is that thinking has a goal. So you can take a fresh paper, and say, oh, I want to think about achieving this particular goal before the end of 2020, and then you are thinking about it. There is something you already engage your mind to already, not just a loose thinking. That turns to be worry, right? Now, so some persons get to this point, and that was what I was doing at that point. Yes, I was already in university, about to finish. What more? And so these are some of the questions I asked that helped me out. I'm going to also call, I'm going to ask us some of these questions. It will help as well along the journey. Everybody is born for a course, right? It is the course that determines our course of study, our course of life, so, for example, some questions is number one: know your creator that created you. Know the creator that created you. God created each one of us. Now, one of the things that I did was that I went to him to ask, why am I on earth? As simple as that is, why am I on earth? Because I found that for every product around me, there was a purpose. Today we are using a sanitizer. Sanitizer has a purpose. I mean, to kill the germs and all that. So I found that even inanimate objects that don't have life or breath in them have defined purposes. Not to talk of humans, like a breed. And then I went to ask about that. One of the things I also asked is, okay, where are you sending me to? What am I to do? What am I to do? What will I do with them? I want you to actually take note of these questions. Just take a screen grab if you can, or just take a screenshot. Go back to think about these questions. Why am I on earth? Every great career story today, they have answers to this question. Mother Teresa came to serve the cause of humanity, right? She was clothing the poor, the beggar, the all. She goes. She when she sees them, she sees that her heart is drawn to them. She knew she was being sent to them, right? What about? I mean, it's the same for every career story I've studied. And the second thing I did was that, apart from, I took an introspection, looking within and asking myself some other further questions. I asked myself, which I want us to do. Of all human problems, there are a whole lot of problems today. every invention actually is a solution to a problem, right? So there was a problem of power outage, and I mean, even before the word power was discovered, there was nothing like electricity. It was a problem, and someone discovered, made that invention. So for every problem is an avenue for a solution. And so one of the four questions is this: number four now. Of all human problems, which ones have been a longing concern for me? I mean, not all problems may be drawn to you, that you may be so drawn or passionate about. Some are passionate about healthcare, some are passionate about education, some are passionate about human resources. There are a whole lot of areas of passion. But now break it down into the problems in that field. When I see young people without making, not able to make their informed decisions about life, about career, lifestyle, relationship, that's a big concern for me. I see young people wasting away time, because I found out that time is the unit for life, and the prime time of life is the time of the young. When I see a young person making missing that time, it's a concern for me. That's a problem. I called it a life skill deficiency, and I started thinking about it. I went on to the next thing. What problems has this concern brought? What problem has this concern brought? Some persons perhaps are concerned about the problem of homelessness. They're concerned about the problem of homelessness. What problem has this brought? I mean, this has brought some places are now, they don't have places they don't have places to sleep, they don't have good accommodation, and all of that. What problem has this concern brought? And the next thing is that, okay, which set of people does this problem affect? I found out that, the problems I found affect young people 15 to 35. What problem does who exactly you know does this problem affect? Right? When I was able to do this, I was able to make more informed decision about my career, and I was able to articulate everything. I'm sent here to raise young people, mold minds, be development centers across the world for young people. Now, the last part of this, as I round up in a few 5 minutes I have, is this: because even when I what happened is that I found that, I have a mission to molding minds and raising young people. I found I had a mission to molding mind and raising young people. And so I wanted to know, what sector of work does that tie to? I found it: education and youth development. But the next thing I needed to do is to know, okay, because I found out that there are different modes of transportation. For example, remember we said your career is your vehicle, right? So, I mean, yes, many people use various kinds of vehicle. I mean, this is one mode of transportation, the aeroplane. So you may choose to fly. Another person may say, well, I just choose to go by a car. That's also a form of a vehicle. Another person may say, I prefer to use an SUV. And there's some places maybe an SUV we get to easily. And that's also a mode of transportation. It's a form of a vehicle. Another person say, well, I want to go by water. I want to go with a ship. That's a mode of transportation. Another person say, well, I want to go by tricycle. and the beauty about this is that there is no inferior path. There is no inferior path. I mean, you just start with your choice, with the one that meets your goal. Some may say, I want to go with a motorcycle or even a bicycle. These are all kinds of vehicles. Your career is a vehicle. Which vehicle will lead you to your own destination? Your career is a vehicle. And then when you find that, the next thing to now distill is, what roles of work will I do in this sector? I broke down that in my book, chapter 4. I talked about career expressions. We have profession, that's a track. We have another track called vocations and craft. These are expressions of careers. And guess what? None is inferior. That you have been in a professional track doesn't mean you are superior to another person who is a vocational craft. It's all modes. What they do is that they make the ecosystem work. So if we don't have some people in vocations and everybody's a profession, the ecosystem will not work. Right? So none is inferior. And that's why we should also be able to guide younger people within our care to make more informed decisions. So when I look at my own field of work, I say, well, education and youth development, these are roles of work that will lead me there. As an educator, as an architect, as a youth development consultant, as a life and career coach, as a speaker and trainer, these are roles of work that will lead me to my destination. And from there, I've gone through a lot of study. and one of the ones I've gone through, I was able to make that choice. So most times as parents, we always try to enforce a particular field of work for our children, but I'm sure with the bit of this basic foundation we've gotten today, it's helped a lot. Now, because one of the if we sit down with our ward, or whether they are with our biological children, or just persons within our care, we sit down with them to do this breakdown. If not for time, I actually have a worksheet that I actually use, to actually coach a young person, really to distill it down to the final path, the final courses of study, and all of that. Now, so you choose a course of study based on your course of life, right? And it can be a combination of formal, non-formal, and informal education, right? And the formal is what a number of us know. So I've done, formal education in architecture. I've done non-formal in education, in psychology, in life coaching, in youth work, right? So it's a blend of all of these, refining that builds us for our career. And this is a lifelong journey. It's not just after a particular degree, it continues over, and over, right? So I'm just going to stop here, so we could receive questions. I just want to ask you right now. I just want to drop in the chat box. How do you feel now? Either you are a direct recipient of this knowledge you just shared, or you are an indirect, beneficiary, and you're going to distill it to others. How do you feel now? How do you feel now? How do you feel now? This has been great. This has been a great enlightenment. I mean, and that's the goal of this session: education and literacy. How do you feel now? Drop in the chat box. Let's hear. And I'm just going to hand it over back to our MC, Rotary Sholanke, so that we receive questions before we're out. Thank you so much, sir. Okay, I forgot to mention. I have an audio copy of my book, and it's just for maybe number of places have had me mentioning it. If you want to get a copy of it for your child or what, the audio version is out. They can just listen to it. It's about 2 hours. Listen to all of the 6 chapters, and easily they can make all of the learnings from it. So I want to say thank you so much once again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Architect Abraham Owoseni. And I'm very sure everybody will agree with us today that to find an architect who is an educator and who is into developing youth in such a way that you are not actually on the drawing board pulling lines, erasing things, or on site somewhere.
Yes.
It's a clear example of setting your tent